a football podcast for football fans by football guys. Welcome to the End Zone Experts.
What up, dude?
What's going on, man? What's the word? What's happening?
Well, there's a lot happening. I think there's a lot going on today. As a Houston Texans fan, we're going to touch on that. Raiders get themselves a new chief over there.
They needed it.
Your quarterback, Derek Carr, probably has a team that likes him other than the Saints. We'll talk a little bit about the Eagles, Red Hot Commanders, and then, of course, the big game, Josh Allen demolishing the Chiefs.
Don't let Richie hear this, man.
Oh, well, listen, it's these are just the words that have to be spoken this evening, and we're here to speak them. So
let's speak that truth, man.
Let's get into it. We're just going to go right into it right now. I just want to jump into this because I'm one of the biggest Texans fan. Thank you for firing Bobby Slowick and releasing him of his horrible duties as an offensive coordinator. I'm going to look over some stats here that I kind of wrote down earlier.
Yeah.
The Texans were 17th in points, 23rd in total offense in EPA, 26th in success rate, 20th in offensive touchdowns, 20th in offensive touchdowns with CJ Stroud, Nico Collins. Yeah. I get Nico was out 5 games. Tank Dell injured late in the season. Stephon Diggs obviously was hurt like around week 6 through 8, somewhere around there. I don't know exactly. Yeah. Obviously,
do you give them a free pass? Do you give, like, Saints fans, we try to give Kubiak being a first-year coordinator. I know Slowick's in year 2. I feel like there's a little free pass with Kubiak because of all the injuries we had and O-line sucked. I mean, do you give him a little bit of a free pass? Say, hey, maybe with a little better graded offensive line, if Stephon Diggs plays at least half a season, if Dell and Collins have more games together, do you think if that's the case, he's still your OC going into the 2025 season?
No.
You think it was coming no matter what, this guy?
I do. I noticed it around week 3 is kind of when I noticed it was the same copy and paste offense from 2023, which was really good. But you got to remember in 2023, nobody had tape on the Houston Texans and CJ Stroud. And the concerning thing was in the NFL, when you have tape on somebody, you have to grow and you have to evolve your offense. And that just never happened. Now, I will say this. It is not fair to blame Bobby Slowick entirely because of our interior offensive line, which progressively got worse with pretty much the same personnel from 2023. So they also did fire their offensive line coach and their assistant offensive line coach.
That's what I was going to ask you, dude. I was going to be like, hey, how is that? If that guy's keeping his job and Slowick is terminated, I would have really questioned you guys.
No.
That makes a little more sense.
No, all 3 are out. I'm very encouraged and I'm happy as a Houston Texan fan.
Yeah.
Because in the years past, we wouldn't make these tough decisions as a franchise.
Yeah.
And I am just so ecstatic that D'Amico Ryans came in there, identified and saw the problem. And I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think D'Amico and Bobby Slowick are pretty good friends based off of their time in San Francisco. And for him to do that showed, to me, a great leadership and a great head coach. And it's things that needed to be done. I'm just super happy. There are
who's the replacement, man? Who do you think?
So I was getting into that.
And I want to throw one name out there that's kind of, before you get into a list, I did just something that popped in my head as you were freaking talking, man.
He's probably on my notepad.
Well, I was about to say, because there's a name, it might not be, but we haven't, I know, man, it's funny, like nobody I've talked to today about that has brought it up. And it's like I never thought about it until just when you were talking about the San Francisco relationship. I mean, it comes – you probably know where I'm going with this, but Clint Kubiak interviewed for a couple of jobs already. Is there any possibility you think that DeMeco is bringing in Clint Kubiak?
He's actually number 4 right here on my list.
Okay.
Yes.
And like I said, I mean, look, because, I mean, you know, there's ties there.
I
Gary
just
Kubiak,
wrote –
right?
I just wrote –
DeMeco with –
correct. I just wrote number 5 was kind of an oddball, but I've seen his name appearing. But number 1, everybody in Houston, and I see majority fans, Chip Kelly from Ohio State.
Right.
That's what I've been seeing a lot. I don't know if that's
definitely will bring up your pace of play. I mean, remember
Correct.
that with the Eagles years ago, Oregon, and, yeah.
I've heard the current quarterback coach, Gerard Johnson.
Okay.
But I've also heard he was in play for Aaron Glenn in the Jets.
Makes sense, yeah.
So I can kind of see DeMeco saying, you know what, Bobby, goodbye. Gerard, hold on, whoa, let's don't go anywhere. We want you here. I can maybe see that. But then I saw also somebody on Twitter or X, whatever we call it nowadays, that they need an experienced offensive play caller, and I agree with that. Matt LaFleur, who's the Rams offensive coordinator, that came up. Clint Kubiak, Saints.
Yeah.
And then I just wrote one here that I had seen, but I wasn't taking it serious because it was just a little trickle. But now I'm starting to see more and more. And I kind of dig it. I don't think it will happen, but I do dig it, is Doug Peterson.
You know, that's an intriguing one, man. Think about it. You always look at that coach because that might have been his last head coaching gig. You know, it's possible. Let's be real. I mean,
yeah, I agree.
I'm not saying it is. It could be, but I mean, he might be at that point where that's a real intriguing. I mean, to work with a kid like C.J. Stroud, you guys have some weapons on offense. I see. To me, out of that list, to me, Peterson makes a hell of a lot of sense. I mean, Chip Kelly. I mean, you could go. He's the hot commodity at Ohio State. I mean, you do feel like you need a little more pace in your offense. When I watched you guys this year, it did feel a little more. It felt ultra conservative at times. Kubiak has a little bit of that kind of trick play factor. Not so much trick plays, but I thought when the Saints had a good old line, when the line played well early in the season, let's be real, the first 2 weeks, I mean, we set the league by storm. It was wild. And I mean, to me, Kubiak showed. That's why a lot of fans wanted him. They're blaming him. I said, man, when this guy had a line to work with and people were healthy, man, he showed some ingenuity. He showed a good balance. He showed something that Slowick almost showed me last year with you guys, that he could set defenses up. And to me, like Sean Payton, that's why I always thought he was such a great play caller. It wasn't always the crazy trick play, triple reverses or something oddball where a receiver throwing a pass. It was, to me, setting up a defense. Like you feel you're sensing what's happening at that particular moment of the game. You know when to call that play action. You know the perfect time for a screen. You know what I'm saying? You know you're keeping the pace going too. You're not getting into this, slow, stuck in the mud pace where it's handoff, pass. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Sean Payton was so good at, and he still is, at setting up a team. That's what I look at. It ain't about how crazy the play calls are. It's about how well you set up the defense.
Yeah.
And he showed that early on, man. He really did.
I'm intrigued with Chip Kelly. I just think he one thing I like about him is he has experience in the NFL. He understands the NFL style and the game.
Yeah.
He also understands, obviously, college because that's where he's at right now. But you can't forget that C.J. Stroud played at Ohio State.
I don't think you go. Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? There's a little bit of familiarity there. I just think the Texans need to play this bold, if that makes sense. Don't go conservative. I'm nothing against Gerard Johnson. I want somebody that's going to really get in there. And Chip Kelly to me has an offensive mind that the Texans just really, really need right now. They're starving for that.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know, man, maybe it's come out of left field. I mean, we always want to make a connection, but let's be real, in the NFL, that happens. And like you said with Chip Kelly, imagine, like a guy like Ekba, the receiver. Yes. Man, let's just say he's projected between 20 and 28 on most mocks that I saw. And I say, okay, you need help on the O-line, but listen, you'll have maybe a little wiggle room in free agency to go make a value-conscious signing there to upgrade.
Yeah.
You can still get, let's be real, you can find a badass guard in the second round. It's not impossible. You know what I mean?
No, hands down. I agree. There was a mysterious ghost.
Dude. I was like, oh, Jordan Shepard must be opening the door. But no, I mean, I just look at that because, I mean, to me, how I'm not the biggest fan of the Diggs deal. I understood why y'all did it this year, but I think you did it, you tried it, move on. It's really unfortunate what happened to Tank Dell. I mean, dude, I'm not a Texans fan, but I think anybody in football looked at that as a terrible situation. There's no telling what's going to come about with him going further in his career. But imagine having Nico and a guy like that with a fast-paced offense, Joe Mixon back there, all with Stroud, an upgraded offensive line. I mean, yeah, you're making the bold move you need to just not – because, listen, dude, y'all can't stay stagnant on winning 9 or 10 games and being in a kind of a shit division, because at some point Indianapolis is going to get better, Jacksonville is going to get better, Tennessee may even get better at some point in the next 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all have had the luxury of being in a soft division, and y'all are a pretty good team. But like you said, teams are going to come for you. It's kind of reminds me of my Saints back in that 17 through 20 area. We had kind of a lightweight division, and we were, a good team, but we never could get, to the promised land at that point. But you got to do something bold every once in a while and put yourself over the top, man. Because listen, you're still in a conference with, let's be real, Baltimore will be right back next year. We see Buffalo and Kansas City, and there's other good teams over there, man. I mean, who knows what happens with the Jets with Aaron Glenn? If, that's a talented team that could be asleep. I mean, there's others, Miami, there's Chargers, there's Denver, a lot of good teams in the AFC. I mean, look, dude, trust me, I love being in NFC right now, the Saints, because, man, I think if we were in the AFC, we'd be a 3-win team right now.
Yeah, it's a tough, it's a tough conference, but we'll see what happens. I think I'm going to go out on a limb. I kind of think it is going to be Chip Kelly, but I don't know. I trust in this Texans era organization, I guess, more than anybody's. But
and that's important. The leadership at the top, man.
Absolutely.
And where do you foresee? I mean, let's be real. I think Slowick gets a job somewhere. I mean, where do you look at like where's the situation that maybe screams Bobby Slowick right now?
I'm just kind of thinking, like, I can see him going to I'm just trying to place him with.
Could you see a Saints, in a funny way? I mean, I'll just throw it out there. I know this is very unlikely, but it's not impossible. Could you see a swap situation where, let's say, D'Amico has that familiarity with Clint Kubiak? Let's say that becomes the guy. Let's say a Mike McCarthy comes in with the Saints. Does he take a Bobby Slowick with him?
It's possible. I do want to peg him where he will go to a team that just hired a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I have this weird sinking feeling that Bobby Slowick ends up being the offensive coordinator for the Jaguars, and Liam Nelson. Liam Nelson. The guy from the Bucks. I can't.
Yeah.
But,
which to me was a little bit of a surprise. That looked like that was a dead in the water situation.
It was until they fired. So they wouldn't fire Trent Baalke, and then all of a sudden,
right? Yeah,
they fired Trent Baalke. And when they fired him, that's when your boy from the Bucks came over and became the head coach. And there was a rumor that the Jaguars were also interested in interviewing Bobby Slowick for the head coaching position. So I think you can get, two birds with one stone here. You get two guys that you kind of had on your board that you wanted in your front office and coaching staff right there.
Right.
I kind of can see Bobby Slowick, and why not? I mean, wouldn't you want to go show the Texans, look what you gave up? And
I
mean, it just makes
kind of I mean, it almost puts a little chip on his shoulder.
Yeah.
I mean, what else to the Raiders? I mean, do you see the Raiders?
I was going to say that. Yep.
I have a feeling the Raiders are going to do something bold. I mean, I look at Cleveland with that number 2 pick, and if I'm Cleveland, they're just like the Saints. They're not nowhere near as bad of a cap situation, but they don't have a great cap situation. They got Watson, who won't play it down, making a shit ton of money next year. They don't know what they're doing. Nick Chubb's going to be gone, probably in the retirement. He looks to be done, unfortunately. But dude, Cleveland to me as a team, they need to trade out of that 2 spot. I know some teams, hey, if they love Shedeur Sanders, take him right there, or Cam Ward, whoever's there. If you really love that guy, go get him. But if you're not in love with that guy, they're not in a bad position to trade down. And I mean, to me, the Raiders look like the ideal team to jump in there to number 2. You know what I mean? Because I got a feeling they're trying to be bold with Tom Brady there, Pete Carroll there. I don't see them going Aiden O'Connell as the quarterback.
That's right. Speaking of that, obviously, you just mentioned the Raiders hire Pete Carroll as their head coach. Mm-hmm. And I do agree that I think Pete Carroll and Tom Brady, both there, are great NFL minds. Yeah. I'm generally not an old head type NFL head coach guy. I like a young head coach that brings the energy with a young team. That's just, to me, a recipe for success in the NFL, in today's NFL anyways. But that's just my opinion. But I think having Brady there, and I think having Pete Carroll there, especially that Brady's a quarterback. I mean, he knows what he has on this roster. I think he obviously sees what's out there coming in the draft. They're not going to –
Did Tom Brady work out with Shedeur Sanders? There's some kind of track record there, right?
Let's back up here for a second.
I mean, this has trade up written all over it.
You know it does. Saying? I want to say this, and
I don't think they're going Sam Darnold. Let's put it that way. I mean, if you ever watched the Brady telecast, he ripped Darnold quite a bit, and he was 100% honest about it. He ripped Darnold in some of those outings.
I think, Dave, I'm going to go out. I'm going to be bold here. I think the Titans end up taking Travis Hunter number 1 overall.
You think Shedeur goes 2?
No. I think Cam Ward goes number 2 to the Raiders.
So you don't think it's Shedeur?
No. Shedeur Sanders is not.
I mean, remember, Tom Brady's got this relationship somewhere there. You know what I'm saying?
Tom Brady, he may have a relationship, but Tom Brady's an incredibly smart quarterback. Right. He knows what he's seeing. I think it's pretty evident.
Are you that convinced that Ward – I mean, listen, I'm not doubting that, saying that, but, I mean, are you that convinced that Ward – is there a lot of separation there with those two? You know what I mean?
I do. I do believe that. I think Cam Ward is much more pro-ready. I think he has a better arm. He has a better vision. He has better mobility. I don't think – and listen, I'm not slamming Shedeur. Yeah. I just don't think you're going to end up getting Shedeur this year, and he's an immediate start, and you're going to see an immediate impact on that field. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to have a similar start, kind of like Bryce Young and the Panthers.
Well, I mean, look, if he goes to the Raiders, you talk about a team with – I do love Brock Bowers being there, but there's not a lot of else going on there. You know what I mean? The receiving
That's correct. They're in building mode. They're building mode.
I think starting off with Aiden O'Connell week 1 isn't the worst thing. Let's be real. I think this is kind of, to me, I know we talked about, I don't even know where it's at on your docket right now. I know we talked about it beforehand, but this is where I think this Derek Carr thing comes from as well. I think people are talking and they know, listen, I think they know that the quarterback that they want may be off the board. I think that's what the Giants maybe don't want to give up that ransom to move up, from 3 to 2 or 3 to 1 at that point. You know,
I'm gonna bring up this. Cam Ward and Pete Carroll remind me of Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson with the Seahawks. The tandem.
You don't think that can happen with Sanders, though? I mean, it's a similar game, right? It's a similar skill set.
No, Sanders. If you go back and watch a lot of his film and his games, the one thing about Sanders that is concerning, he locks his eyes on his receivers, but he's not paying attention to the rush. And
is he almost a little too big play dependent too? Like, I don't know if
he's very
some
big.
Of the Colorado games I've seen, it's like there's a lot of dead plays, and he'll make the great play 30 yards downfield. But let's be real, in the NFL, you have to make a career off of slants on 3rd and 5. You got to throw a clean screen to the running back. You got to make an out route throw. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not about just nobody's going to come into this league and throw 20-yard passes downfield. You know, every play. It's just not going to happen.
I think Shedeur, and we're getting kind of off topic, but and we're going to touch into this closer to the draft. But I think Shedeur, he has a very similar trait to Caleb Williams in college, where they'll beat the easy teams, but when they face a much more pro-ready style defense,
Mm.
They disappear.
No, and I agree. And that's Tom Brady in his mind. You know, I know we're going to get into this another time, but it's like, do you think is Tom Brady confident enough in himself? Like, hey, look,
no,
you want to splash?
Tom Brady's not coaching. He's not coaching.
No, he's not. He's not. But I mean, if he puts the right guys in place and says, hey, with Pete, with this OC,
no,
I think this kid's going to be a hell of a project.
No, I don't. I think Cam Ward is closer to being a starter in the NFL than Shedeur Sanders. I think
I don't doubt that at all. I don't disagree there at all. I mean,
I think the path of least resistance for success for the Raiders, knowing that they have Brock Bowers, Cam Ward, who knows what else they do in free agency, because they have, I'm looking right now, they have $92 million in free agency.
Yeah, and I mean, look, dude, you can. That's what I'm saying. You're talking about the Raiders, right?
I'm talking about the Raiders.
Yeah. So the Raiders, because they need help everywhere. I mean, if you could spend that money wisely, I wouldn't go just splurging on a $35 million wide receiver. But like, you know, I mean, I don't know if that's T. Higgins territory there. I don't know. Maybe it is. But I feel like, man, I don't know. Like, it's almost a place where I have Brock Bowers. I've got like arguably the best tight end in football already in year one. You know what I'm saying? If I could go, I got to get a running back. You know what I'm saying? But if let's just say they went for a more bargain, you know, wide receiver and then picked up another guy maybe in round 2. And really, I mean, before you know it, you got a solid kind of semi 1A type receiver. You got a young kid coming out in the second round and a pretty good receiver draft, and you got Brock Bowers. That's a good group of targets. You know what I mean?
Right.
You gotta do better to me than Jacoby Myers and Amir Abdullah and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I'd want that quarterback to walk in that situation, but they got a lot of holes on that team. Let's be real. It's not going to be a 1 year turn it around type situation. They got to think, you know, I think Pete Carroll's got to almost look at this, not quite as bad as what Sean Payton walked into, because there's no Russell Wilson elephant in the room. There's probably less bad contracts given all that cap space. So, but I think you almost got to look at it and evaluate like Sean Payton with the Denver Broncos. Year one is just going to be, let me get an audition. Let me look at everybody. Let's see what we need to do in year 2, and let's start really competing.
Well, the thing is the Raiders, they actually can move up to number 2. I mean, there are things that they can trade up and get. And I think Pete Carroll, he didn't take this job to go coach Aiden O'Connell. I mean, that's not going to happen.
No.
So,
yeah, he saw the writing on the wall. And
I think in free agency, if the Raiders land a Godwin or a T. Higgins, you can pretty much feel very confident that they're taking a quarterback. Somehow, some way, they're taking a quarterback in that first round if they sign one of these big wide receivers, because they're not going to sign a big wide receiver higher and have trotting out Gardner Minshew and getting.
No. I mean, and you know, and they got a kid on that team, man, who I think he could be a pretty good deep thrower. He's got a lot of speed. Is Trey Tucker. Not a lot of fans know him, but I mean, he's a guy. You know, us dynasty football nerds, we kind of watch that kid. He's got a little downfield game in him. You know what I mean? I don't know. Who knows? Maybe your deep threat. Because keep in mind, Bowers is basically giving you like ridiculous receiver production almost. You know, with those numbers. So you may not have to go in the second round and go get, like you said, if you get a Higgins or a Godwin, pair that with Bowers and a Trey Tucker as a deep threat, you're kind of covering some bases there.
Yeah. And what's the best safety blanket or safety valve for a young quarterback than a good tight end like that? So,
got company in here. Jesus, come on.
Surprise!
Here, got everybody coming here.
Let's go.
But no, I think Pete Carroll. I think the Raiders are going to be interesting in the offseason. I think in the draft they're going to be really interesting to watch. That's a team that I think is going to be doing a lot of moving and shaking. But with that being said, talking about moving and possibly shaking, the Giants are interested.
In here, man.
Uh-oh.
Coming in here, dude.
Well, we got the Cleveland Browns in there, bro.
Yeah, let's see if he wants to get on here for a minute. Oh, there he is. All right, brother. All right. Guest appearance. There you go.
Dude, you're supposed to know horses belong in the barn, bro.
Yeah. So him and freaking Wrigley, man. I got like a defensive line, man, with those two.
You got a better defensive line than the freaking Saints do.
Yeah, I probably do, man.
No joke.
That's
I'm
here,
sorry.
buddy. Here, you want to go? Go ahead. Be free.
Um,
He is exiting, folks. All right. So what's next, man?
The Giants are apparently interested in Saints quarterback Derek Carr. Now, this has been kind of floating around a little bit on Twitter, and I found it interesting considering that the Saints kind of are faced with, a lot of situations there.
Yeah.
But if there's some way they could offload Derek Carr in this contract to the Giants, I believe the Saints are better off. And I also believe the Giants would be somewhat respectable there. I don't know. That's just my take. I think both franchises are going in different directions. I think obviously the Giants have Malik Neighbors. They have the number 3 overall pick. If they could somehow land Travis Hunter, I don't think they would. But if they can, you got Hunter, Neighbors, Carr, Tyrone Chase, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
All of a sudden seems like the Giants are kind of back on the map.
Yeah. Or what if even like, let's just say Hunter's gone. I mean, you still might have a great shot at Abdul Carter on defense.
You do.
Almost, he might give him like that Willie Anderson type factor that that you guys seen. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
that can transform an average defense into something, perhaps kind of special in another year or two.
Yeah, you could. I mean, this is what I love about the draft is all the different ways you can kind of play this out. And I'm one that really loves to watch teams.
The next move, dude. It's like
the next moves are fun, and then you go back and look. Man, imagine if this team wouldn't have done that and done this.
And there'll be that shocker. There'll be that Michael Penix move that nobody sees coming.
Correct.
And it's hard to see it. But, dude, like with Carr, I could see their issue being saying, hey, look, maybe Dable and company, they're not sold. They know they won't get Cam Ward. And like you said, maybe they don't have an option after that. They don't look at Shedeur as the perfect fit. It's too early for Jackson Dart. I don't know if they trade down. I think they get, if you got an Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter on the board, I think you got to slam.
Oh, yeah, you got to take it.
Smash, on that.
You got to take it. Hands down, I agree with that.
Because Hunter could come in and play some, if they can manage it properly, you got a cover corner. You got a receiver to pair with Malik Neighbors. Jalen Hyatt might still be a guy that, let's see how he does with a different quarterback situation with Tyrone Tracy. And, I mean, man, it all of a sudden looks a little fun. I mean, even Abdul Carter, I think, could transform an average defense into something special. And, I mean, look, and you can still look. Carr, you get him in there, you play with his contract, you make it work financially over the next couple of years. Worst case scenario, he starts this year, and let's just say you're in a position, again, to draft one of the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks in maybe next year's class that you might like a little bit better. I mean, they might be, like you said, Dable, as fans, we always looking at what's in front of us. But let's be real. Like you said, those guys have tape on the class that's coming out next year. There might be 2 or 3 guys they love in next year's class and say, hey, look, if Carr works out and pulls a Sam Darnold, then we got gold. If he doesn't work out, just punt quarterback to next year. He's kind of an expensive backup, but he's not a bad guy. Like I've always said here, I'm not changing my tune on it at all. He's a good mentor. He's a professional guy. I think he'd be great with a young quarterback. And not every quarterback is, I mean, I wouldn't want that guy learning under Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers, somebody with a bit of arrogance who might not be willing to help a younger dude,
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think both I think this move really does help both franchises.
Yeah.
In the way that they're shaping up, in the way that the directions they're heading. Now, the Giants have about $43 million in cap space. So
that's moves that can happen, man. You can do some things.
That can happen. You got to kind of renegotiate with Carr. Obviously, you're going to extend them somehow, break it up. If I were the Saints, I would entice the Giants. I would throw in maybe an extra third or an extra second. Hey, please just.
I think the Giants, to me, look, Chris, I could see that deal being with the Giants giving up next to nothing, almost like some of these trades in the past where you just seen a cap move, you know what I'm saying? Like we talked about with the Osweiler thing. I could see the Giants just giving us like a fifth, honestly. Like, I'm not, and it's no offense to Carr.
Probably pick up. If you guys could take Carr in a second and you guys get back a fifth, and pretty much.
I don't want to give up a second. I'll be honest with you. I think this team needs this draft desperately. I mean, you got to remember this too, Chris. He's on his contract. Now we'd have to get some cap expert to really break this down. Maybe we talk to somebody. But
here's the problem. Here's why you're going to have to give unless the Giants just are so intrigued with Carr, like he's the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he's not, and they're kind of if I'm the Giants, I'm not going to lie to you. I would say, well, we're kind of going in this direction, but we do need a quarterback, and we are picking third. So right now they can hold still and just wait till the draft, or they can say, you know what, I will take a flyer on Carr, but that's a lot of money. That is a bad contract.
And look, dude, but the thing is, here's the beautiful thing on his contract. Now his dead number looks bad for the Saints because Mickey Loomis did his stupid Mickey shit and went ahead and hit us up for $51 million this year so he could finagle stuff the previous 2 years. You know what I mean? But for a team that's coming in, I think we save $11 million if we trade him this year, and I think it's 20-something million, low 20s next year. So I think they save overall, $30-something million if they make this deal. That's what's encouraging as a Saints fan. You know what I mean? You start to rebuild a little bit easier. You clear up $30-something million of cap space over 2 years, which is great for our situation. But as for the Giants, their prorated version of that is going to be pretty damn affordable. Because Carr, remember, when he signed that deal, I think he was penciled in around like $34 million a year, $35 million a year, which look at what they were paying Daniel Jones, $40. Look at, Lawrence and Watson, these guys making over $50. Carr at $30-something million a year,
what you have to remember.
Is a great value, honestly. You know what I mean?
What you got to remember. He ain't getting 30 this year.
No, he isn't. And that's what I'm saying. That deal, the Saints are already on the hook for, like you said, some of that dead money. I think we're still going to be on the hook for $40 million dead money if we trade him. Because remember, he got a lot of stuff up front. So the dead money factor, the Saints are still going to be – it's almost like in baseball when, you see a team pick up a player and they're on the hook. They work that deal out. Like,
you have to
understand. They take a certain portion of that salary.
You have to understand as the Giants, if I've got $43 million and he's going to cost me $50, well,
but I don't think
that wipes me out.
Now, look, there's somebody on here maybe smarter than us with the cap thing, but I'm thinking if we're still – you know what I'm saying? We're going to still take a $40 million hit if we trade him. This is on the over the cap. I pulled this up. He's still hitting us for $40 million instead of $51 this year if we trade him. So, to me, the Giants would seem like they would – kind of like what you guys and Stephon Diggs. Like, you got him at, like, this great discount. I think it's the same situation with Carr. I don't want to say I'm a major cap expert, but I think there is some significant savings with the Giants.
That's okay. Let's back up. So,
because look, if you go on there and do the little toggle, we're on the hook still. We save $11 million, but we're still on the books for $40 million of his dead money this year if we trade him.
Trading him and getting rid of that $50 million salary cap gives you guys relief, right?
What's that now?
That gives you guys relief. The problem now is
we don't lose it all at once. From what I'm looking at, I'm going on over the cap. It shows 11 mil this year, and we save like 23 or 24 mil in 26, and then we're gone after that. There's no money afterwards.
No, see, what I'm trying to say is the Giants, like $43 million. Well,
they're not going to pay that 50. They're not getting hit with the full money.
Yes.
Well, no, that's what I'm saying. Pull up over the cap. I know you got your phone by you. Go pull up. This is what I'm basing this on. I'm not good enough on my own to come up with this. I went on over the cap.
But if you trade somebody, so you mentioned Stephon Diggs. So Stephon Diggs was in the midst of I want to say like 3 years, I think. Yeah. So this past season, when the Texans took on Stephon Diggs, they also paid him, I think, what he agreed upon in Buffalo. Now, please keep in mind what you agree upon and what's guaranteed are different. And why I make that statement is we have somebody else that we were debating with about the cap. What is guaranteed is owed. You're going to get that, right?
Well, right. That's the Saints are on the hook for that, though. From what I'm reading, the Saints look like they're on the hook for most of that, even in a trade situation.
Well, now this is where things will get difficult because I'm not looking at that right now. Yeah, but I don't know what.
Check that out when you get on there, because from what I'm reading, if everything plays out the way I'm looking at it, I would think that the Giants are going to get him at a hell of a discount because we're still the fact that we had front loaded so much money to him and signing bonuses, and Mickey did his Mickey type shit that he's been doing for years. The Giants, I think, come in, and I think that's what's so attractive, Chris, is I think they get him at a hell of a price. I mean, next show we'll talk about it more. I know we only have so much time, but check that out on Over the Cap, because from what I'm getting, we're still going to be hit 40 million instead of 51. And in next year's cap, we're taking a much better savings. If you give them, so I think it's like the way I had it calculated, it's like 34 million, 35 million over 2 years that we're saving. So his number is going to have to be reduced in New York. You get what I'm saying? Because he still has guarantees out there. It's not like the famous Dancing Bear Devontae Adams situation where all his dead money's gone. Carr has significant dead money still. Most of it's this year.
So his base salary this year is 30.
Right.
That's base salary.
Mm-hmm.
So he has a prorated signing bonus of 11 million. Mm-hmm. He's got a roster bonus of 10. Obviously, that would be saved because he wouldn't be on the roster.
Right. So some of that's going to go to New York's going to absorb some of that, and then they're going to have to finagle some things.
That's correct. That is correct. But
that's what I'm getting at. They're going to get him at a reasonable price, is I guess my end game here. Well, you're not going to pay like a hefty price to get Derek Carr. That's why I think it's going to be a late round draft pick, and they're going to get him at a steal price. Yet the same cap relief, a little bit of cap relief. You know what I mean?
The only thing, his guaranteed salary is only 12.7.
Right.
Which that's done with after this year.
Right.
Because you're paying $10 million of it this year. Last year was 1.2, and then the year before that was 1.5. So you guys cleared that up in 3 years, which was.
And what was his total money? Like 140, 133, somewhere in there, something like that? Like his total, because I know we're taking the massive cap hits right now, the dead cap hits.
Oh, what do you want? His total salary?
Yeah, because it wasn't the original deal like 4 years, 130, 100 somewhere in there.
150 million for 1, 2, 3, 4.
For 4 years.
4 years.
Okay.
Yeah. 4 years.
So 4 years at 100. So, and that's what I'm saying. So that money, I know we've paid a dead portion, but the big dead numbers, it's like we're staring at 51 million. And I think, for the Saints, who are 60 million over the cap.
Now, if you did
that's one of the paths to reducing that cap number. By what would that be? 20% at that point?
So,
I'm not a math major, but
if you cut him, and we're talking trade, and we're getting really deep into this, but if you did a post cut, your dead cap is only 21 million. But you
have 2 post and first cuts. You have 2 that you can max out.
Yeah, you can actually do that. You would have $30 million in cap.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this. Do the Saints, Tyrann Mathieu is a name that comes up. There's some other ones we talked about before we went on air. Listen, the Saints have to reduce a lot of money. Okay. It's going to come in the form of restructures. There's some cuts that they can make and save, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot of great contract situations where they could save a ton of money. Like a lot of that money is like dead money that got pushed back to.
If you trade him post, your dead money is only 11 million.
Right.
And then you would save 40 million on the cap saving.
Right.
Which is huge. Which I don't know why the Saints wouldn't do that, actually.
What about pre-June 1st? What about
well, that's well,
you said pre or post? I'm sorry.
That was post. So pre-June, you would flip it. Your dead would be 40, and then your cap saving would be 11. So pre. Okay. So you would want to do it post.
Right. So you see what I'm saying now about the 11 million this year and 20 something, I think, the following year.
Yes.
See, and to me that makes the most sense because for the Giants, think about it. You want to have a plan. If they go in, to me, I would think they go into draft night with Derek Carr. You have a starting quarterback. You're not coming in with Tommy DeVito or Drew Lock. You know what I'm saying? You got a plan, and you could play this draft and kind of you got more flexibility in the draft, if that makes any sense.
You do.
You can go in there, you can be bold if you need to be bold. You can get the best available if a Travis Hunter falls or Abdul Carter. You're going to get a damn good player one way or another, and you don't desperately have to go quarterback. You can kick quarterback to 26, So
your cap.
That's why I'm thinking they do this thing before the draft. I'd be if they don't get it done before the draft, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I just think there's a reason this conversation's happening with the Giants, with the Saints. I think somebody
your base would be that, and then your cap number would be 50. So you would have to. The Giants are going to have to. Somehow the Saints and the Giants are going to have to work out some of the money and then restructure. But then if they restructure, that means they're going to have to extend them. And then I don't know if the Giants want to extend somebody that's fixing to be age 34.
Right.
That's
most of his contract is going to be out of the way after this year. Like it's going to be like the Devontae Adams thing we talked about. There's not going to be a lot left after next season. It kind of fades.
Yeah, it would. You would save more if you traded him next year. You'd have $50 million in cap savings, and you guys are back in the saddle of filling out the roster. So the best thing for the Saints actually is to trade Derek Carr. If you did releasing,
I mean, dude, even if you get let's just say the Giants are froggy on it, they really like this guy, 4th round pick. I think you're the Saints. You have to really strongly consider. And you know me, I've been a defender of Carr in a lot of ways. But if I see this ticket, then here's the thing that really gets interesting. Remember, I don't want to go too deep in the Saints. Remember, Alvin Kamara signed an extension this year.
Mm-hmm.
And Alvin Kamara's talking about he wants Darren Rizzi back. He wants everything. He thinks they can run it back with what they have, be healthy, and things are going to change. Most fans, like myself, don't believe that's the case.
No,
I think they're making some changes.
No. I think what they're doing –
Darren Rizzi's not going to be the head coach. If he is, I think you have a lot of pissed off Saints fans. But
I think you're going to see the Saints – I think the Saints have been eyeing and already looking – I think the Saints already know who the next head coach is.
I think they do too, but listen, man, and I know you know some guys with Rattler. I just don't – some people are higher on Rattler than I am. I'm not, and I think as a fan base, it's kind of divided on Rattler. I think there was a lot of hype when he first came in. I think some fans have already turned it off. I'm not ready to turn him off completely, but let me ask you this: do you convince, like, how do you keep Alvin Kamara happy? I don't think Alvin Kamara is going to ride with hey, we're just going to give Rattler another shot after going 0-7. And I'm not saying that's all his fault. Having a little bit of a rough start. Like I said, I'm not throwing the kid away. But if I'm Alvin Kamara, I've only got maybe 2 or 3 years left possibly in this league. Does Alvin Kamara demand a trade at that point?
So let's back up a little bit with Rattler. I don't believe Rattler was hyped. I think there was a much-needed hype that people wanted to see change. Right. They were just so starving for some spark and some change. And then you had a guy that was in college that had a unique career that provided that when I say this, the hope for the spark, but was given a horrible situation to deal with. I think he navigated through it pretty well. Now let's back up. I don't want to confuse hype like Caleb Williams hype over hype that, I remember back in the day when the Texans had Brock Osweiler and Ryan Mallett was the guy that came in. And we all thought that he was going to be the next big thing, but it was hope that we were hyped on, not the player. So I want to just be very gentle with that. Yeah. Now, I will say to your question about Alvin Kamara, I think Alvin Kamara is not in the plans for the Saints because obviously they're fixing to go into an entirely different direction. Mm-hmm. I think in long-term plans, I think he's going to be here next year. I think your coach is going to end up being – personally, I think it's going to be Joe Brady just because of the time that they have slowly went at this. And I say that because the Bills are in the AFC Championship game. So they have waited.
There can't be any conversation. Yeah.
That's correct. It's them and the Cowboys. So the Saints are in a good position when it comes to picking and selecting the next head coach. Because I think they already have their sights on who they want. And it's down to Brady, McCarthy. I really think they're intrigued with Brady. I think Brady would be fine here. I just think when you have Brady, don't be shocked when you do go in with a Rattler next year and you do go in with Kamara. I think Kamara's here for maybe another year. And then you start.
I'm just thinking if Alvin Kamara, like when you're not to cut you off, I'm just saying, like right now, when he's bringing up this Darren Rizzi thing, it feels really convenient with timing. It's almost like he's hearing this. His agent's talking to him. His buddies are talking to him. He's looking at the possibility of what you're saying. And I think he doesn't like it. I think he's trying to like, hey, listen to me. One of the biggest names, in your team's history. I'm raising my hand to be saying, hey, look, Darren Rizzi is not that bad of an option. Let's run it back. Because if you go young, I think if Spencer Rattler's your starting quarterback and Joe Brady's your coach, Alvin Kamara is demanding a trade. That's all I'm saying. I think he's out of it.
And you know what? Whether he does, I'm not
saying it's a bad thing. I just think that's what's going to happen. I don't think he buys into Spencer Rattler and Joe Brady. I think Mike McCarthy, Derek McCarthy stays. I think if Joe Brady, Spencer Rattler,
if I'm the Saints, and I'm going to be a little harsh here, if I'm the Saints, I'm not buying into Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara is getting north of 30. He's getting older. This team needs a fresh face. And listen, I think Kamara played really good last year. I have nothing against Kamara. But at some point, the Saints have to get away from Cam Jordan, Demario Davis.
Right.
The fan favorite thing.
The problem is, Chris, you still got the problem is the guy who's behind all this is still there. He hasn't left.
I understand.
I'm worried that no matter who he hires, he's going to be in that ear saying, hey, listen, I still believe Demario Davis is the top 5 middle linebacker. I still feel Taysom is going to come back and do Taysom Hill things. I still think Alvin Kamara is a top 10 running back. I still think Cam Jordan is a valuable asset on the field as a player, kind of coach on the field type. I'm just saying, like, that's to me. Mickey Loomis wasn't here. He had a new general manager. I would think there's somebody coming in and tear this thing down completely. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think you definitely keep in Demario. I think Cam Jordan comes back. I think Matthew's going to be the odd man out in that post-June 1st cut because you got a better option with Will Harris, who's a free agent. And you got to keep him around, in my opinion. I think you got to – Matthew was so visibly bad at times. I think you got to move on from him. You know what I'm saying? Demario and Cam offer too much of that leadership. But Kamara's the weird thing. Like, to me, why – the fact that they extended Kamara, I think this is like the writing on the wall saying that they're going to ride these guys to the wheels fall off. Because, I mean, to me, if that was the point, why did we extend this guy? Why didn't we just let him play through it? You got his – because now you're tied in a cap space that you could have used this year. You could have went and drafted a rookie running back, giving Kendre Miller a shot, maybe get somebody from another organization. But you married into Kamara for another couple more years, and that's cap space that you desperately needed. So to me, I don't think you gave him an extension to trade him, if that makes any sense. You know what I mean?
Because to answer your question, and I've said this over and over again, the Saints and Mickey Loomis do not want the challenge of starting fresh. If they did, they would have never have went in as long as they did with Dennis Allen. Listen, I don't care what any analyst, what anybody says about a certain coach or this and that and the media and all that crap. I'm going to be honest with you. There is no way, shape, or form you can honestly believe Dennis Allen was the right head coach.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
You just don't believe that. No one believes that. Yeah. You cannot sit here and tell me that Alvin Kamara is going to produce like he produced last year at his age.
Right.
Why? He did. Don't get me wrong. But Father of Time will catch up with you, i.e. Kirk Cousins. It's going to happen. It is going to happen.
And this extension made zero sense when you have so many questions and you have such a bad cap situation. I mean, I know fans think about it. You go on the street, hey, do you want to keep Alvin Kamara or not? Every fan's going to say yeah, just about. But to me, when you're overlooking what you really researching what's going on with this team and you're analyzing, hey, this team is totally stuck with the cap. How are you doing 13 to 14 million now or whatever it is for Kamara next year?
The Saints need to roll up their sleeves. They need to get their hands dirty, and they need to rebuild this franchise back to the way it was back in 2009. The problem is you have a lot of people still in charge that were a part of that 2009 Super Bowl, and for whatever reason, they still think there's a little glimpse of that to still be had in 2025.
See, I think, Chris, I think it's not so much the 2009 because that team is long gone. I think it's this 17 through 20 era. When Peyton, they were close. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like they were close, and they kept having the Minneapolis Mirrors. You know what I'm saying? I think they really believed that they could be better or keep this thing going from that period. Like, you know what I'm saying? I think they're still living on that hype because Mickey Loomis doesn't know any better, and I think that's the problem. You don't have anybody in-house to tell them, hey, dickhead, those guys aren't as good as what they used to be. You need to start cleaning house. The problem is all these extensions, like you said, Chris, I mean, you got 2 June 1st cuts. And you know they're not cutting Davis or Jordan. You know what I'm saying? But to me, okay, what if Alvin Kamara forces a trade? now you're in a situation where you're going to eat dead money off this trade. You're probably going to get nothing but a mid-round pick at best for Kamara. You're going to eat dead money. Like, I guess what I'm trying to say is I think the situation can go from bad to worse losing Kamara, which to me, my feel when you gave him this extension, I thought it was, hey, Kendre Miller's waiting in the wings. Maybe you're trying to reverse that Mark Ingram Kamara situation, which was so great early on when they had that, in that 17, 18 time period. Maybe you were trying to do that and say, hey, Kendre, he's got to stay healthy, but he's got potential. Alvin could be that mentor like Mark Ingram was for him. That's the whole reason when they gave him that extension, that had to be, in order for anybody to make sense of that extension, that had to be something that was brought up in the front office. Because if you're not considering it that way, I don't understand why you bring in a running back over 30 and you're tying money that you don't have into that guy. You get what I'm saying? Like your plan would be to keep him and have him as a combo back with Kendre Miller. But now all of a sudden, if you go into this, let's just say if McCarthy comes, I think Carr stays. That's my opinion the whole time.
I don't disagree.
And if Joe Brady comes, and I don't see this is where, and this is not me pissing on Rattler, but I've got a feeling if Joe Brady comes in here and Kamara is a little suspect and he's, if he starts barking, I think the Saints, if you move on from Carr and Joe Brady's the coach, I think you're going to a Jackson Dart at that point. I think the Saints I don't know if they think they could trade back and get him and get some other picks, but I think the Saints, you always see this bold move like the Michael Penix move. I think the Saints, if they get rid of Derek Carr in this trade to the Giants and Joe Brady is the next head coach or Cliff Kingsbury, who we talked about in the past, if it's one of these younger head coaches and Carr's out the building, I think in order to keep Kamara happy, and I'm not saying you're making a move just to keep him happy, but I think all this kind of just seems like it's adding up to they're going to do something bold and go. I just don't. We talked about Joe Milton. I don't know. Listen, most organizations I think have the sensibility to do something like that. I just think Mickey Loomis and the way this organization is structured, I think they're going to be bold and pull a Michael Penix move, and I think it's going to be – I don't know why, dude. It's talking to me in my sleep. I think Jackson Dart is going to be the guy if they move on. Which I wouldn't be – dude, I love the guy. I've been high on him all season since last year, really even. So, I don't know. I think the Saints – I just don't think there's a situation where it's going to be a Spencer Rattler and a Hendon Hooker or a Joe Milton. I know we talked about it. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just think that given who's running the organization – I can't see it happen. I think they're going to want to go in with a new fresh face. Dart's a first-round pick from the SEC, third best-rated quarterback in the draft. It makes sense.
Based off of that, then that kind of limits down because I can say Cliff Kingsbury is not going to come if he can't have control over a quarterback, and he needs a mobile quarterback. And right now,
the Dart can run. Dart's mobile. He's more mobile than Spencer Rattler.
Yeah, but mobile like
he's got better athletic score. I'm not throwing that deep Raz bullshit. I'm saying like his numbers, his 40 time, his his stuff is a little more.
I mean like a Joe Milton, a Malik Willis. Yeah. He needs those kind of guys. He needs a good a scrambler, but also can be pocket passer. He needs a playmaker guy. Because
remember, Dart had designed run plays called for him at Ole Miss, and I didn't love the supporting cast he had. He didn't have LSU supporting cast or Alabama supporting cast.
Dart is not Kyler Murray. He's not Johnny Manziel.
No, he's not that guy. But Jackson Dart is mobile. He's very mobile. He's more mobile than Spencer Rattler.
No. But comparing them two are not. That's not.
No, I'm just saying who's in house. I'm just comparing on who's here. Let's be real. Jake Hayner's not an option. Spencer Rattler is kind of a sort of option. I don't think you're cutting Rattler. He's going to hang around for a little while, and you're going to see how things go. But I don't know, man. I think it all comes down to who the head coach is, man. I think if McCarthy's the head coach, you're not moving Derek Carr.
I totally agree. And based off of, like you just mentioned, who's running this organization, it really feels like they don't want to change a whole lot, but they want to make subtle changes to create the hype that the Saints are still fun to watch so they can keep making a revenue and keep telling the fans to come on and buy season tickets. And that name typically, I feel it's going to be either Mike McCarthy or Joe Brady. I think Brady for two things. One, he LSU. Okay.
Yeah.
Two, the Saints are taking a while making this decision, and it's just oddly enough they've been tied to Joe Brady's name, but he's still in the playoffs and he hasn't interviewed yet. So I think
if it was McCarthy, why hasn't it been done yet?
That's my point. So I think it comes down to those two. And then from there, it's anyone's guess.
Let me ask you this: do you think this is a money situation as well? Like, let me maybe not. I mean, because let's be real, nobody's talking about that aspect of it. Mike McCarthy's not going to be exactly cheap given his track record. No. So maybe are they waiting to see what Joe Brady, what is his agent looking for? What's Kingsbury?
I think we need to sit down.
Say, hey, look, if I get a bargain deal on one of these young hotshot coaches compared to what McCarthy's people are asking for. I mean, let's be real. Remember, Loomis is tied in with Gail Benson so much. He's watching her money. You know what I'm saying?
I think it has nothing to do. Well, let me back up. Everything has something to do with money, right? But
that's what I'm saying.
I don't think that's a big trigger for the Saints. I think the Saints want whoever their head coach to be to know that this is how things are going to be ran, and it's going to be out of the two coaches to say, okay, cool, or no, I'm not about that. I kind of need more control.
But we're talking about a sensible general manager as well, which we don't have.
There you go. So
that's what I'm looking at. I mean, dude, I hate to say this, but I'm just looking at like, okay, let's just say I'm throwing numbers. I mean, I'm not doing a research on. I couldn't tell you what most coaches are making. I don't think most people can. But let's just say McCarthy wants $10 million coach his team, and whoever's talking to Brady and Kingsbury's people saying, man, these guys are going to come at $5 million. I don't know why. I just feel like, I hate to say it. Now, like you said, it shouldn't matter. You got to go make the move for the best, situation for your team going forward. But I just don't trust Mickey Loomis to make that decision, if that makes any sense. He might just look at, oh, shit, I'm saving Gail X amount of dollars. I think all three of these guys are good candidates.
No, I don't think it's going to come down to – I see what you – I don't think that. I think when they're in an office and they're sitting down and they're game planning and having a strategic approach on how the Saints are going to be ran, I think two things are going to happen. You're going to have Mickey Loomis and Mike McCarthy that are going to share similar vibes because Mike McCarthy, one, he's up there in age. Two, he's proven that he can get a team to the playoffs. I think that is what really is important to the Saints. I think the Saints also want that Derek Carr to work. I mean, listen, anytime a man can go up there and chew gum and say and compare Tom Landry and Dennis Allen together, that's alarming. That means he doesn't want a bunch of change. Now, Joe Brady sits in there. I think Joe Brady's going to be told, well, Derek Carr is going to be your starter. I think you're going to have to run it this way and this way. I'm in charge of this. I think Joe Brady's going to say, no, you know what? I don't agree with that. I believe I need a quarterback that I can work with. He didn't handpick Derek Carr, neither did Mike McCarthy, but Mike McCarthy didn't handpick Dak Prescott either. So that kind of leans more Mike McCarthy. I just feel the Saints are someone that doesn't want to go against the grain. They don't really want to fight too hard and give a lot of control. They don't want the head coach to have a lot of control, i.e. that's another point for Mike McCarthy. That's why I ultimately believe in the end it's going to be Mike McCarthy.
And that's what and to me, like this Derek Carr trade we're talking about, Chris, like if it's going to happen, and like I said, this is not me trying to, I know we debated off air, on air, every podcast, all the guys. I've been kind of a little more pessimistic on Rattler. I just think that if the deal happens, I believe they have a plan in place because there's no cap space. You're not going to sign Sam Darnold. You know what I'm saying? You can't make it happen if you wanted to make it happen. You're not going to get. I just got a real feeling like if that move, they have to be looking at a guy like Jackson Dart, an Ole Miss guy. Everybody knows him in the SEC. He's got a little bit of an it factor to him, and that's what I'm saying. Like I think I don't think they go into it with. And like I said, I'm not saying what you were wrong. We talked about Joe Milton or Hendon Hooker, Malik Willis. I don't think that's wrong, but I just can't see Mickey Loomis buying that.
Well, that's going to be the difference right there is Joe Brady's not going to want Derek Carr. I don't believe Joe Brady's going to want –
They're almost the same freaking age. I mean, they're what, 2 years age difference? I mean –
What's that?
There's about a 2 years age difference between the two of them, I think. If I'm not mistaken, what's Brady, like 35, Carr's 33, something like that?
Yeah, they're kind of similar in age. Yeah. They're similar.
I'm just saying he's going to want to work. And look, even if he goes back with Carr, let's be real. You may be drafting a quarterback in the first or second round this year.
Well, if it's in the first round, you guys are going to have to move up.
I mean, you're at 9 right now. I don't think you're getting Cam Ward. Like, to me, you're in no position to get Cam Ward.
There you go. That's my point.
You can't be bold, given as terrible as your cap situation is. I think you have to look at Jackson Dart. I just think he's the only other guy I like in this draft that I would look. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's going to be probably another good quarterback somewhere in this draft, but I'm just looking at him. I think I can tell that to a fan base. I think if I'm sitting there with the table with guys in the front office, hey, this guy's a stud at Ole Miss. You know, the kid's got a little bit of an it factor. You know, he's got a little personality to him. I think you can sell this to your fan base and say, hey, the Jackson Dart era begins. And I think that makes some kind of sense if you move on.
I think, like you said, you know, try to sell that to your fan base.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's an SEC quarterback, first-round pick. People know the name.
Mm-hmm.
This kid's got the blonde, long hair. He's exciting to watch. Great deep ball. He's mobile. I just feel like like I said, he feels like the next guy. I mean, Kuiper moved him up to 3. You know, I mean, he's moved up on a lot of.
Now, time out. Let's touch on this too. Before we're going to have to get into the AFC Championship and the NFC Championship,
right?
And we are going to do a draft. We're going to do a show dedicated to the draft. But I want to be very clear what that means when Mel Kiper moves him up to 3. The quarterbacks in this year's draft, there's 2, and then there's everybody else. So moving him up to 3 doesn't mean he's like the third automatic can't miss guy like last year.
No, I get it. I go back in my head though.
There's a
2005. Gap. I go back to my head to 2006 actually. Mm-hmm. I go back to that year in that class, and I'm thinking, remember Matt Leinart, Vince Young.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knew those were the top 2.
Mm.
Both Leinart was a total bust. Vince Young showed some potential and just really fell off a cliff, which he was a bizarre situation because he looked like he had it all there the first year or so. And then the third guy, remember who it was, kind of built up steam late in the season at Vanderbilt, Jay Cutler. And I'm not saying Cutler was not a Hall of Famer, but he had a nice career, especially when compared to
he was okay. He survived that. Listen, there's no
that third or fourth guy. I mean, Josh Allen, Mahomes.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I guess. I'm not really. I don't care everything about Mel Kiper, but I mean, I've watched this guy, and I saw Jackson Dart earlier on the season. I'm looking at where people project him, and I'm like, damn. I said, I know I'm seeing these other quarterbacks, and I'm seeing this guy at 6 or 7. This guy plays in the SEC. I've watched what he does. I've watched his games against high level opponents. I don't think he has the best supporting cast around him. He's got the kid, was it Harris, the one receiver? I think it might be a second or third round projection. I don't see a ton around him, but I'm like, I like everything I see with this kid. I think he's real workable. He's got the tools. And I'm thinking, how is he 6 or 7 on these boards? And it's funny, as the year goes on, he has that great bowl game. I think people realize Ewers really ain't him. Carson Beck, who people had a lot of doubts about as well, comes back to college. And there's some other guys dropping down on the list, and he catapults. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like a lot of these prognosticators were like, hey, dude, shit, I'm wrong. I missed out on Dart the whole time. And now they're trying to cover their asses. Let me squeeze it. I don't like a late push like a Blaine Gabbert. Remember, Blaine Gabbert wasn't really that great of a college quarterback. He had the push after the combine. Remember, like Christian Ponder was kind of a weird guy like that too. I don't like those guys. I like when I see performance, and I think some guys were dropping the ball on Dart. And now I see, because I'm basing this all on, I don't look at, I never draft a quarterback off what he does solely in a scouting combine. That was kind of my doubt about Anthony Richardson. I want to see it in game action in college, because if you're not showing in game action, I don't give a shit about your measurables. I want to see a quarterback perform, more than anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I don't look at like, hey, shit, he ran a 4.3 and he's 230 pounds. He can throw the ball farther than Uncle Rico. I don't care about that. I want to see. I'm watching this guy, and I was like, can this dude translate this into Sunday? Yeah. And I'm looking at absolutely 100% with this kid. That's why I like him so much. And look, I love Shador and I love Cam Ward, but I know that's not realistic. So I guess I'm looking at who's the realistic option to fall to the Saints. And I don't know, dude. I just – maybe it'll happen, maybe it won't, man. But I know we went way too long on this shit.
Way too long on that. But we are going to dive into quarterbacks. We're also going to dive into some dynasty. quarterbacks and running backs and stuff like that at some point. And obviously, when the draft gets closer, we're going to get really into it because I love the draft. And I really do want to talk about Jackson Dart. But we've been in that an hour. I want to talk about the NFC Championship game.
Let's get it, bro.
Eagles versus Red Hot Commanders. Who do you got? I know who I got. We're not going to spend a whole bunch of time on these games, but we're going to make it short, simple, and to the point. I'm taking the Commanders. I just believe Jaden Daniels.
I know why you want to do it, man. I know why you want to.
I just think Jaden Daniels is playing incredible right now. He tore the Lions up last week. I don't know what I see. I mean, he's growing right now, and he is peaking at the right time. I think he's going to be unstoppable this weekend. I'm taking the Commanders. I got to take him.
What scares me about him this week is I feel like their flaws are going to get recognized more. I think Jahmyr Gibbs was really – I think Ben Johnson really not only – I mean, everybody's thinking about the Jamison Williams pass and how things got screwed up there when you're trailing in a game, which was a stupid-ass call. But I almost hate more the way they underused Jahmyr Gibbs at times, because Jahmyr Gibbs at one point in that game, if I'm not mistaken, he was averaging like 9 or 10 yards a carry at one point in that game. And to me, I look at Washington. I think they pieced together some names. You know, Jonathan Allen, Frankie Louvu was a good pickup. They got Lattimore in season from the Saints. But it feels like it's been a patchwork defense. And the thing that scares me is like with Saquon Barkley, who's deserving of MVP. He won't win it because it's always a quarterback, it seems. But damn it, he's deserving of consideration. I just feel like this is going to be a Barkley 140 yards, 2 touchdown kind of game. I think Jaden Daniels is going to play his ass off. I think he's the obvious rookie of the year. It's not even close. I think he's already knocking on the door of top 5 level quarterback. I think the kid's great. I do. I think Washington, the fans should be so happy. I mean, it's a dream scenario for their fan base. As shit as they've been with that Daniel Snyder era, I think Jaden Daniels is their savior. You know what I mean? But I just feel like the Eagles are well coached. They got a good defense, top 5 defense, I believe, this year. I just feel Barkley's going to be a difference maker. I think Daniels will outplay Jalen Hurts. I really do. I think you'll look at that game and say, hey, he's a superior quarterback without a doubt. But I just got a feeling Barkley's a difference maker. I think Philly at home, man. Look, I think it's going to be a good game, man. I think both of these games, there's not going to be no snooze fest. I think both are good games. But as much as I like what Daniels has done, and he's surprised everybody, I feel like I just think the Eagles. I don't know why, man. I just think Barkley's going to be a difference.
I get it. I got to go Commanders. I think when you've got that quarterback, man, and those quarterbacks are just a difference maker. And Jalen Hurts is good, but man, Jaden Daniels is balling.
He's better. I think he's better right now than Jalen Hurts, dude. Right now.
Yes.
Definitely as a passer, and I think he's got more. I think he's got more explosiveness with his legs as well.
He does. Moving to the AFC Championship game, the one we all really want to discuss. Bills Chiefs.
Oh shit!
I know who I want. I'm going to let you go first on this one.
I'm just sticking to my story on it. I think you guys, the Texans, hung in there very well. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on the refs, but let's be real. You know, some things happen. A drive was kept alive. That was a big difference in that game. I've heard other podcasts that I'm on say, oh, well, you know, Houston caught a break in the previous week. Nah, man, that was different, dude. This was a serious break. But Travis Kelce hurt you guys. And if I'm Sean McDermott, I've got to eliminate Travis Kelce because look, you're coming off a week where you had to stop Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. I don't think Patrick Mahomes, I love Pacheco. He's nowhere near 100% in my book. I don't see Kareem Hunt, Pacheco, and Mahomes building any kind of run threat like that. So to me, all the everything is there for you to put your emphasis on Travis Kelce. I don't believe in Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, or Xavier Worthy beating Buffalo. I don't see it happen. I think DeMar Hamlin's going to play that one deep really well, take away the deep ball. I think they're going to have a plan for Kelce. And I think on offense, dude, I think Josh Allen he had a pedestrian game. Let's be real. You still beat a damn good Ravens team who was good enough to win the Super Bowl. I think James Cook is a huge factor. He doesn't get enough praise to me. I think he's a borderline top 5 running back. But, dude, I really feel Josh Allen has just one of those epic games of his. I think he just takes this thing over and does anything. I think he's not going to be denied. And I think we talk about momentum. I think that team has a special momentum surrounding it right now. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, man. Kansas City feels like they've been so close to fucking up every week. It's a team missing a 30-yard field goal. It's a bogus penalty. It's something. They don't have the explosiveness of years past. I don't think they can separate themselves from the Bills in this game. And I think the Bills I think somebody's going to come out like a Dalton Kincaid or Curtis Samuel. Somebody's going to come out of nowhere and have a big-ass game. I just feel I got a lot of respect for that Chiefs defense. You know what I mean? But I think Josh Allen just gets unstoppable this week, dude.
Yeah. No, I don't disagree. I'm taking the Bills. I agree. I don't like the Chiefs. I really, as a Texan fan, I mean, I thought last week's game was when they played the Chiefs, I thought that was just absolutely. I guess what really did it for me was the flop that Mahomes did while he was kind of running out of bounds.
The out of bounds play,
and then he intentionally slowed down to where he knew he was going to get pushed. He acted just like LeBron James always does, and it was one of the biggest flops. And that's when I really was like, I tell you what, the Chiefs. This is in their game plan. This is in their game plan. I'm telling you now, they pull the strings of those refs. And the other one was when the Texans both collided into each other. And, I got into it with some Chiefs fans online. There was –
It didn't seem on that play like Mahomes could have easily took a little more of a sideline path. I think he had a blocker with him, if I'm not mistaken, and he could have ran. But it's almost like he anticipated you guys – like he slowed down almost to a complete stop.
The Chiefs are not – listen, the Chiefs are a highly educated
intelligence is through the roof, yeah.
They're intelligent when they know the rules of the game and they can pull on the heartstrings of these refs. They're not stupid when it comes to that.
Yeah.
So
Mahomes is great for a lot of reasons, and he was savvy. He was savvy. I think he knows he didn't have – he knows this isn't his best. There's no Rashee Rice. There's no 100% Pacheco. Kelsey's fading a little bit. He knew he had to do something a little different.
Patrick Mahomes is what he would fit in today's NBA, like hands down.
Steph Curry, LeBron flopping around, Luka, whoever.
Yep. It is just the craziest thing. So I agree. I think the Bills. I want the Bills to win. I think they will win because I think Josh Allen is playing really good football right now. Mm-hmm. I do like James Cook, but I really do like Ray Davis. He is a sneaky little running back, and that guy can. If he can get going, I like him. Another wide receiver that I like is I can never pronounce his freaking name. Is the Shakur guy or whatever?
Oh yeah, Khalil Shakir. Yeah.
Whenever you take your eyes off that guy, he ends up taking a 30 to 40-yard touchdown. Curtis Samuel is another guy that I like. I just think they're playing really good football right now with what they have. And I don't think the Chiefs and the Bills roster-wise, outside of Kelsey, I mean, they're kind of what right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really I mean, the Chiefs might have a little more impact players to me, maybe in certain spots, if that makes any sense.
I'm talking just offense. Just offense.
Oh, yeah. No, it's damn close.
And that's it.
I like James Cook better than any. I think he's definitely more the impact player at the running game.
He's the more impact player in the running game. I think it's going to come – this is going to come down to Josh Allen versus Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that Josh Allen has to really do. Kind of what Stroud did is he kind of really put that game on his back. And Stroud doesn't really rush. He doesn't scramble, but you saw him take a lot of hits, a lot more hits than Stroud ever took in any game.
Yeah.
I think you're going to have that grit with Josh Allen. I think the Bills are going to have to be extremely disciplined whenever they're around Patrick Mahomes and just throw your hands up. Don't touch him. Don't just do this and just kind of bump into him. Because I'm telling you now, they're going to play on that, and the refs are going to call that. So if he's sliding, stand 5 feet away. Let him slide.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Do you think there's a scenario where the league is catching a lot of shit for what happened last week? That everybody's putting podcasts together and putting on shows, and Joe Mixon's come out. We know about the TJ Hushmanzada tweet about the refs. is it there? Is it? And this to me really favors the Bills.
Mhm.
If they let them play and get physical, I'm looking around in the second quarter. I see the Bills up maybe 10 points. The Chiefs looking for that flag that they normally get and they're not getting. And I see a frustration developing from within on that team.
I'm gonna go.
There's a realistic possibility that the league. I'm hoping. I don't trust anything in the Roger Goodell era. I don't. But I'm hoping this is more of a crew that says, "Hey, let them play."
No, I'm going to piggyback off that just kind of a little bit, but in a different way.
Mhm.
I think the NFL will do what it can as best they can by getting the Chiefs. And this is a big conspiracy theorist for me. This is kind of what people may think I'm crazy for saying this.
Yeah,
but
I know where you're going with it.
I think the NFL loves the fact that you've got Taylor Swift there, who has turned tons and tons and tons of non-traditional NFL fans into fans because of her popularity. And I think that is a bunch of huge new generated money and new business for the NFL, and they love that.
And let me ask you this. Caitlin Clark might have been a Chiefs fan since she was 3 years old, dude, but is it just a freaking coincidence they're going to put her ass next to Taylor Swift, two of the most popular women on planet Earth?
You know what's odd? And just help me here. Outside of this kind of case and scenario that's happened, the last time this was kind of happening was Jessica Simpson and Tony Romo. I can't think, and I could be wrong here, but I cannot think of any other instance where a celebrity in that today's age, in that era, dating a professional superstar, and it was constantly shown. And not to mention that, but out of all 32 teams, like I can tell you now, this is crazy because perfect scenario. This is great that we brought this up. You know who Josh Allen's dating?
He's got Haley somebody. Is it what's her name?
Yes.
She's is that
actress, right?
Yeah.
We don't ever.
Where's she at, dude?
There you go. Why are we not panning on her?
I want to see this girl hanging out with the Bills Mafia before the fucking game.
I'll tell you why. And poor Haley, this is no offense to Haley here, but
I mean, she's not the name. Yeah, she's not the name.
And you've got Taylor Swift, who is selling out arenas left and right. And
she's the modern day Madonna, Michael Jackson, Elvis, whatever you want to call it.
Is that not a coincidence, though? That Josh Allen
really sucks. This is for you guys, Chris. Last week, I felt like you guys were just going to have to play the game of your lives. There was going to be no room for error. That's why on the podcast, I took Kansas City. I said, man, I think it's going to be close, but Kansas City wins. I think they're going to get the breaks if it came down to it. Now they've been there. You saw Caitlin Clark and Taylor Swift, but I think the best thing that happened was I think you guys wore them down a little bit, and I think the best thing is I love what your players are doing. I think if the Bills win this game and go on to win a Super Bowl, I think some barbecue or something needs to be bought down there for guys like Joe Mixon, D'Amico Ryans, whoever. Like, I think you guys, I really, and I think this is going to be historical. I think the Bills are going to win this game. I think they can win the Super Bowl this year. They're my pick at this point. I mean, that was kind of my pick for many weeks now. I kind of got on a bandwagon, with Josh Allen and those guys. But I think the Texans, man, are going to – I think what they did was really important. I really think if they would have just went off and not said anything and whatever, I would probably not – there's no way I would bet against the Chiefs in this game. But I think what you guys, your team did is going to be really important. I really feel that way. I think it's going to get the game called in a fair way. I really do. I don't doubt anything like you're saying. I don't doubt a no-call situation with a pass interference or something stupid. But – I got a feeling you guys brought some serious awareness to this, and I think that's going to change the landscape of this game.
The Chiefs won most of their games this season by 3 points or less. I mean, for the most part. So they skate by a lot of these games. Yeah. And the other interesting thing was they always won them in the fourth quarter. It wasn't like in years past when the Chiefs would win 31 to 17. It was very different this year. And I think the Chiefs are slowing down.
They are.
I think you have some players that are kind of spotty. I just don't know if the Chiefs have kind of what it takes to finish this thing out like they did in years past. It's very hard to go 7 straight AFC championships.
Yeah.
And then,
and that's it. There's no conspiracy theory. Look, I don't think the Chiefs cheated their way to anything. I don't think.
No.
Like they're a phenomenal franchise. They have the best quarterback on the planet. They got a great head coach. They got Hall of Fame. There's probably 4 Hall of Famers on this team, at least 3 I could think of. And I think they're a great team. I think they'll be there next year. I think they'll be right there in the conversation next year. They're not going to fade away, no doubt about it.
No, not as long as
I just feel like they're susceptible right now, and I feel like these distractions. I know our buddy on the podcast, like, oh, well, they're going to look at that as bulletin board material, thinking they got doubters. Man, listen, at this point in the season, bulletin board material shouldn't be winning you a game when you're in the Final Four. You know what I'm saying? That's not going to make the difference. But I think you guys brought it to light, and I think there's going to be that call here and there that they normally might get that they don't get, and the game's a little more even. I mean, they're a great team, not to take anything away from them, but I don't think they're going to – I think – and that's going to build frustration. I think Mahomes is going to be looking for flags that he's not getting. Borderline calls might not go their way, and I think that's – I just think like you said, they're too close on paper.
Yeah.
And I think the Bills go in there. I think they go into Arrowhead and win this game. I think the Bills Mafia is jumping through tables in Kansas City, and it's going to be fun to party with those guys in a couple weeks in New Orleans, man.
Yeah, I agree. I think Bills win. I think Taylor Swift has shown at least – I'm going to go over 3.
Is Caitlin Clark back with her again this week?
No, but I was going to say I will also parlay that into there will be somebody else sitting there. I don't know who, but
do you think the NFL all of a sudden finds Miss Haley Steinfeld or Stead?
Haley Steinfeld. She's a very popular actress.
Yeah, and I was about to say, is it going to be a situation now with Allen playing the biggest game of his life? It almost feels like they're ready. This girl, it's almost like they've come to her already and asked her.
The NFL is not going to waste any time. If it's not generating them money somehow, they're not going to pan onto that.
Look, before we want to get, I'm going to look because I feel like I'm saying her name wrong. I got to look before I get off.
It's Haley. I think it's Seinfeld or Siegfried.
I don't know why I'm saying Seinfeld. I just keep.
It looks like it's spelled that way. I think
it is. So Steinfeld, Haley Steinfeld. It's funny. The first thing that comes up, fans pick clear side in Steinfeld Swift AFC battle. I'm just looking at it. I'm just Googling now. I'm interested. I'm kind of seeing. It's funny. There's a ton of articles out there with her right now.
Yeah. It's just I'm just.
It just feels like doesn't this feel convenient? And to me, I think this caters to Buffalo. I think. Bring her in there. I'm telling you, I think, and it sucks that games should be decided this way. And to me, I hate that. I hate that as a sports purist. I'm not saying it's going to decide the game, but it almost feels like there's something in the back room saying, hey, you get a borderline call, send it, this way. I don't know, man. I hope this doesn't exist. I just don't trust Roger Goodell's NFL. It's a hypocritical league under this guy. It's still a great game. I love watching it, but I don't trust the man at the top. Not like I did Paul Tagliabue when I trusted the results every week. I trust most commissioners in sports, except Roger Goodell.
Yeah. I think Dave Portnoy with Barstool Sports feels the same way.
Yeah,
I do.
I think he's a clown. I think he's an absolute clown. I think he'll do anything for money. I think he's hypocritical. As a Saints fan, I could touch on it for a whole hour on a podcast about the things he's done just that involve us alone. That's hypocrisy. You know what I mean?
Maybe we have a podcast dedicated to Roger Goodell and his demise. How about that?
Hey, look, dude, I would – and the problem is, Chris, the owners will never – they won't vote him out anytime soon because he's generating so much cash. Don't get me wrong. He's like a Vince McMahon when it comes to that.
Yeah, to an extent, he is. He found his –
you know what I mean?
He found his Hulk Hogan and Andre the Giant and Taylor Swift, and he's gonna make that.
He knows how to. And it sucks, dude, because we want football. If we want to watch wrestling, we'll turn on WWE or AEW. You know what I'm saying?
That could be a podcast in itself.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
So, anyways, well, we've been on.
It's going to be some fun games, dude.
It is. Maybe we get on and maybe do something. Who knows? We'll see where we're at.
I'm more hyped than usual, dude. This is the most hyped. Like I told you before, this is the most hyped I've been about a conference championship weekend since probably 2018 with the Saints.
We'll post a lot this weekend, and we'll get some content. Make sure you follow us on Facebook, End Zone Experts. and we'll get some more content out for you guys. So
Let's
with
do
that
it.
being said, I'm out.
All right, brother.
All right, dude.